Okay, let's talk about one of life's, well, most frustrating little moments, the dreaded stain. In this explainer, we're going to break down the actual science of stain removal so you can save your favorite clothes from what feels like the absolute brink of disaster.
Oh, you know the feeling. We've all been there. That split second of just horror, watching a colorful drop bloom across a perfectly clean fabric. It's a universal moment of panic that can honestly ruin a perfectly good day.
And in that moment, your mind just races, right? What do I do? Should I grab a napkin? Water? Salt? The pressure's on. And believe it or not, what you do in the next few minutes can decide whether that piece of clothing is saved or lost forever. And here's the tough part. Unfortunately, a lot of the old tricks and immediate reactions we fall back on, they can actually make the situation so much worse. It really turns out that knowing what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. So let's kick things off with the most common ways people accidentally sabotage their own best efforts. First up, temperature. It feels so intuitive to just blast the stain with hot water, but this is a huge mistake for anything that's protein-based. We're talking blood, sweat, milk, that kind of thing. The heat literally cooks the protein, bonding it to the fabric fibers for good. You always want to start with cold water. Okay, mistake number 2 is that frantic rubbing. It feels like you're doing something productive, but all you're really doing is grinding the stain deeper and spreading it wider. Even worse, you can damage the fabric itself, causing pilling or weird discoloration. Instead, you want to gently dab or tamp. This pushes the stain remover into the stain, working from the outside in, without making the whole mess bigger. And here's a big one. You've probably heard this a million times. Pour salt on a red wine spill. Well, turns out it's a complete myth. Salt actually sets tannin stains, like wine and coffee, making them nearly impossible to get out later. So this is the key question, isn't it? If our instincts are wrong and the old wives' tales are just myths, how do we actually get stains out? Well, the secret is surprisingly simple, and it's what every single professional dry cleaner knows. Pretty much every stain you will ever encounter falls into one of 3 main categories. And once you can identify the category, you know exactly how to beat it. First up, we have enzymatic stains. The easiest way to think about these is as organic stains. They're made of these big, complex molecules from living things, whether that's plants, animals, or, us. And this category includes some of the most common culprits out there. Grass stains from the park, a drop of blood from a paper cut, chocolate, baby formula, and even the base of that pesky tomato sauce. Next up are oily stains. Now, these are caused by fats and grease, and they are, by their very nature, water repellent. That's why just dabbing them with water does absolutely nothing. And here's a fun fact. The most common stain by weight on our clothes is our own body oil, also known as sebum. You'll recognize these right away. Salad dressing, butter, makeup, or that greasy spot from a slice of pizza. This category also includes that gradual yellowing you see on shirt collars and cuffs. Yep, that's just oxidized body oil that wasn't washed out properly over time. Our third and final category is oxidizable stains, which you might also hear called tannin stains. These are all about one thing: color. They come from the natural pigments in plants, and they're responsible for some of the most vibrant and stubborn stains we deal with. Seriously, if you've ever spilled coffee, tea, or red wine, you've battled an oxidizable stain. Berries, juices, and that powerful yellow from the turmeric and curry, they all fall squarely into this category. Okay, so now that we know our 3 enemy categories, how do we fight them? Well, it turns out each category has a specific weakness, a perfect tool that is literally designed to break it down. And this right here is where it all comes together. For those enzymatic stains, you use an enzyme cleaner. The enzymes literally digest the proteins. For oily stains, you need a surfactant, like plain old dish soap, which surrounds oil molecules and lifts them away. And for those colorful, oxidizable stains, you use oxygen bleach to chemically break down the pigment itself. It's like having a key for every lock. And get this, you don't always need expensive commercial products. A pretty simple student science project found that an incredibly powerful all-purpose pre-treater can be made with things you probably already have in your kitchen.
So how well does it work? You're going to love this. In their study, a simple paste of baking soda and vinegar scored an incredible 4.75 out of 5 for effectiveness. That is the exact same score as the expensive commercial pre-treaters.
All right, let's put it all together. Here is a foolproof, step-by-step process you can use for pretty much any stain you ever encounter.
This is your 5-step universal method. Step 1. Always check the care label first. Step 2. Scrape off any solids and blot the excess. 3. Pre-treat with the right tool for the job and let it sit for a bit. 4. Wash it in cold water. And finally, step 5, and this is the most critical part, check the garment while it's still wet to see if that stain is actually gone. And that leads us to the golden rule of stain removal. Never, ever put a stained garment in a hot dryer. That heat will cook in any part of the stain that's left, setting it permanently. If you can still see the spot after washing, just let the item air dry and then treat it again.
And one last pro tip for you. A lot of the toughest stains are actually combinations. Think of something like a bolognese sauce. It's oily from the meat and oxidizable from the tomato. For these, you just use a 2-step process. You treat the oil first with dish soap, then you treat the color with oxygen bleach. Simple as that.
And there you have it, the professional's playbook for beating any stain. You now have the system to identify, treat, and remove stains with total confidence. So, what's the first laundry challenge you're going to take on?